This is just a recap tutorial of how to go from a basic object to a rendered animation. I'm going to start with the basic cube. You could also just delete it and add whatever you wanted, but I'm going to go over here, add a ring cut. Now, if you want, you can also just go like that for selecting. Hit B on the keyboard to do a shift select. Just going to hit X on the keyboard. I'm going to remove that vertex. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to hit add modifier or mirror. And I want that to be in that direction apparently. Now actually I want to see what I'm doing, so I'm going to switch over here to face select, and I'm going to use the extrude function. Extrude that, hit S on the keyboard just to shrink it. You can also just use the scale function over here, but S to shrink again. Now, actually, I'm going to switch back over here. I'm going to go over to the modifier, hit apply. Then I'm going to jump back. Then I'm just going to select this side. I'm going to go forward, S, scale. Shrink that just a little bit. Click on it once, hit S for scale, shrink it a little bit more. I'm going to shrink it in. I'm going to click it again and go down again. And this time I'm going to shrink that. Now we have a nice inset little thing. Now, we've got this, that's great. But now I want to texture this. So what am I going to do? Well, now, actually, I could go over here. I could also sculpt it a bit. I want to make sure I'm not mirroring, sculpting, because I'm just adding a bit of uniqueness. Now, I can also hit this button, which allows it to add geometry. If I want it to do that, just to kind of do this. Whereas when it's not checked in, it just moves around the geometry that already exists. But there we go. Now, next step, we have that thingy. So I'm going to want to unwrap it. So you have multiple unwrapping options here. The simplest one appears to be this one. Now, I want my parts to be a little bit far apart so that they don't have color bleed. I'm going to add that. Oh, A. Let's do that again. There we go. All the parts are all laid out here. Now that's great and everything, but I need a new texture. I'm going to call it B1. Save. Okay, there. That is on there. Now let's go over here to texturing. Let's load B1 in. Let's go over here and go single material, load B1, and now I can color on it. But to do this proper, I really like to use color palette and choose my colors. I'm going to want a yellow. Let's add the yellow down here. Probably red. Then, well, obviously we also going to probably need to do some cleanup, so we're going to need the black back. And maybe some blue, just in case. Now those are the colors I would like to use, so I'm going to start by cleaning up my mess. Now if you hit F on the keyboard and then click, you can make it bigger. You can also just change your sliders over here for thickness if you want to just add a very light something, whereas if you want it to be solid, you can just do that. Now I'm just feathering my edges on this side, but now that I've done that, I can just go over here and I can blanket hit the whole thing, and then I'm sure I got it all good. Just testing to see where these are. Let's just blanket that whole piece. There we go. Now let's add a red band. Now I am totally getting carried away here, working on my project. I should actually be continuing on to the next step. Okay, that will be good enough. Now, we need to take that image and we need to save it. Save image as. Just going to hit save image. Now, over here, kind of does its own thing. Let's go over here. Do we see any? We don't see any image. Okay, that is fine. We just need to add the image. So I'm going to go over here, make sure I have one of these. Then I'm going to go over here to base color, click on that. I'm going to go image texture. Now, that is kind of interesting color, but I want to open. And I want to open my documents. And I'm looking for B1, open. And there is, had some color bleed. Oh well. So, here it added this, so you can also make sure this is working. If you're in texture painting and you're trying to do stuff and things aren't working and things just aren't really working, if you go back here to layout and you go up here and you switch this one over to Blender files, and then you go in under images, you can delete everything in here and then just start over, and that's a kind of like a clean slate. And if there's other things messing you up, you can delete them from wherever they are. Just know if you delete your object, well, yeah, these are your Blender files. So if you do run into problems, that's kind of the easiest way to fix it. Now, continuing on, I want to animate this kind of. So to do that, I want to, which axis do I, no, that's not what I want. 0, enter. Is this the one I want? Yes, okay. 0, enter. Now I'm going to just click this little dot over here. That sets my keyframe. Now I could set multiple along here if I wanted, but because I just want it to spin, I'm now going to change it to 360, hit enter, click the dot again, and now if I hit play, it starts spinning slow and then it speeds up for the ratio of the spinning, and then it slows down again when it gets to the end. But I don't actually want it to slow down and speed up like that, so I'm going to make sure I have all my dots selected. So if they're not selected, they're not. I'm going to just hit B to select them all, make sure I got everything. Then I'm going to right click on a dot, and I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to pick linear. That's going to make sure it stays at even speed the whole way. You can do others if you want others, but for this I'm just wanting it to stay even. Now it will continue evenly, which would be a loopable thing because it's exact loop. So there we go, and just confirm. Yeah, it's working. Let's actually make it so it looks cooler. Okay, next let's go to render, but we actually don't need it spinning while we're rendering. I'm going to switch my view to this one. I do like to see the texture just a little bit. Now if you go up here and you grab in the top corner and you drag over, you can get another view. Now I'm going to set this view to be what my camera sees. So then I'm going to grab my camera. Now, grab the camera, I'm going to have to drag this out. If you don't see these little arrows, that's probably because you have your animation still going and they're going to be gone, which is kind of annoying. So you got to pause the animation. You got to drag this back a little bit. You're going to move it forward a little bit. No, that's down. Forward. Up a little bit. You can also rotate it, of course. There we go. Now the light. Let's move that one over here. Over here. Let's set it to... Oh. Where are we? Here we go. I want this to be, yeah, need to set that up there to be in the render mode. Now my light will show me differences in brightness. You can use the different lights, but I'm going to use that one. Let's say 5000. Have it nice and brightish, maybe. Actually, I'm going to move this up just a little bit more. And there. Now, we want to render this. So let's go over here to render. 1080p, so 1920 by 1080. I'm good with that. Frame rate, let's go to 30. PNG, I kind of like PNGs. This is the output folder where it's going to be dumping all of these files. Overwrite, if it's checkmarked, it's going to start from 1 and just go through. If you don't start there, then it's going to continue forward and from wherever it left off. So if you had to cancel your processing or it crashed somewhere and you want to continue, you just uncheckmark that, and then it will continue on from the last number given. And then we just need to go over here, up here, hit render animation, and it's going to pop up this other window, and this other window is just going to be it processing. Now, there's very little geometry in this, so it's going to process very quickly. But if you go to the file where it's making it, you can see it's just adding it. Let's shrink the view just a little bit there. So it's just adding it as it goes, and that is your rendered animation. Then I would load it into hitfilm and as an image sequence, and it would then be a video clip of a spinning thing. But we don't need that right now, and I actually don't want to finish that. So there we go.